Hey guys, meteorologist Chris Tomer. Let's talk some mountain weather here, and this is the On the Snow, Snow Before You Go forecast. First thing is my spider chart. And odds of best snow next 5 to 7 days. So there are some definite trends here when you look at this. More purple higher on the chart represent better odds. So really the pattern favors the northern Rockies to begin with. Fast northwest flow, although it's trending weaker. Then the whole pattern's going to shift south by late in the month of January, and that'll return snow to California by the end of the month. In the Northeast, you've got snow coming down currently, and there's another good shot, about a foot coming between the 25th and the 26th. So the 26th will be your next big powder day for the Northeast. So, when you look at all these places on the map, the Tetons I think are good. Montana looks really good. The Wasatch, the central to northern mountains of Colorado. And then late in the month, California starts to get snow again. So all those places are higher on the chart. This week. Here are my bullet points. So fast northwest flow getting ready to establish itself, although yesterday it looked much more impressive. Today I've cut all my forecast numbers down just as a result of it trending weaker. Then the pattern's going to shift to the south and the west. So it'll bring all the snow from the northern tier of the Rockies down through parts of the central Rockies, and then eventually all the way to the southern Rockies. So California is back in the mix. All of Utah. Eventually, all those places are going to be back in the mix by the end of the month. All right, let me just show you what the infrared or the water vapor satellite looks like. So oranges and reds on this represent drier air aloft. So you've got a big low right here, really steering everything, driving the pattern. There's also a low at this point kind of moving through the northeast. But the pattern is conducive for the northeast to have at least one more storm. So here it is. This is your jet pattern right now, amplified, and then there's this northwest flow that's trying to set up, and then a big trough for the northeast. So this is the pattern right here that will bring ripples of energy down this northwest flow, hitting Montana and Idaho, Wyoming, northern Utah, and the central to northern mountains of Colorado for a while, and then the pattern will shift south. But there's this high, and this is part of the key here. Let me find my blue. So there's a high right here. What will happen is by the end of the month, this high is going to retrograde, and that will open the pattern. That will bring the jet stream to the west, lower the pressures across all of the west. All the pressures will drop by the end of the month into early February across the west, and so we're going to be looking at a return to storminess across the west, with moisture in California getting thrown back into the interior. In fact, you can see it down the road here on the IVT plume forecast. So integrated vapor transport, we look at this for atmospheric river setups. Notice it gets a little more active by the end of the month into early February with some weak atmospheric river contribution. It's just a representation that things are turning more active with areas of low pressure and a favorable jet hitting the west coast. So that's something to look forward to. All right, let me show you what the actual jet will look like on the 31st. So 131, totally different pattern here. The high has moved away. It's retrograded, opened up the trough. Lower pressures are sitting there just off the west coast of California, feeding the moisture in. And this will be the pattern for probably the first week of February, with a lot of jet energy running straight through the northeast, continuing to blow some clippers through that area late in the month. All right, let's talk about the timing of all of this. So here is my forecast radar and satellite. So by Monday morning at 6, low dropping down through Colorado. Some additional moisture blowing north to northwest, out of the northwest on that northwest flow very fast. Yesterday looked more impressive. Today you can see it's much weaker. By the time we get to the 27th, 28th, here is the jet dropping south. You can see the bands of heavy moisture of snow across most of the northern tier of the Rockies. The whole thing will be dropping south and moving into California by the end of the month. All right, let's talk about snow totals. So the 23rd through the 31st across the west. This will all come in phases, and most of it's going to be in the northern Rockies at first, and then by the end of the month you'll start to see those numbers tick up in California. But the early period is very dry across California. But I like the numbers for the Wasatch. Again, this runs all the way through the 31st. A couple of feet there, a couple of feet in the Tetons, 1 to 2 feet up in Big Sky and Bridger Bowl, Discovery, looking very good. About a foot for Baker and Stevens Pass and Timberline. In Colorado, we're looking at some decent numbers, anywhere from 8 to 16 generally, and that's a long time frame, the 23rd through the 31st. So you've got some small initial surges on the northwest flow, and then that whole pattern that drops through that's going south by the end of the month. So yeah, I mean, there's some decent totals there. Let's go to the northeast. All right, so here is the northeast 23rd through the 31st. And again, some of that, most of that is on the 25th and the 26th. There's probably at least a clipper behind that for later in the month, maybe a couple. But a lot of that snow you see right there falls 25 and 26. So the 26th will be the next big powder day up there. All right, guys, thank you for tuning in here. Always appreciate it. And again, this is the On the Snow Before You Go forecast. Take care.